Hello, welcome. So that's it again. We're at Scryfall. We're gonna hit random 30 times and we're gonna choose one of those cards to just try and create a deck around it. So let's go, let's start it. Okay, first card of the day, Angelic Protector. 4 mana angel, flying, 2/2. If this is the target of a spell or ability, it gets +0/+3 until end of turn, so it is not a great card. Like getting toughness is already not great, and if you target it once, it becomes a 2/5 only at 4 mana. So yeah, not really a great card. I'm gonna start putting cards in here. I'm not gonna try to look at what we did last week, and I'm just gonna try to give these a rating without seeing that. I do want though to know when to stop, and we're gonna go up to the card number 60. For now, I kind of remember if a card has already gone by, but I will try to implement something so that I know if the card has already came earlier, you know, so we don't lose track. Anyway, I am gonna just look at these. This is garbage, but maybe a little bit more than 1. I'm gonna say 1.2 for now. Let's go. Is it in here? Okay, Command Tower is a commander card, and are we gonna rate Command Tower? Okay, we can rate. I'm gonna rate anything that is not a basic land and uncards, like Infinity, I don't know, those kind of cards. Yeah, that is one way. So yeah, Command Tower is pretty good in Commander. You can have a 3, 4, 5 colored deck, and it generates mana of any of those colors, all of the colors that you need, and enters untapped for no cost. So just gonna give these like an 8 or 9. Let's see, from 8 to 9, very good cards. So yeah, I think an 8 is good. Really good card. I don't know, like it goes for commander, so in there I'm gonna say that this is its rating, right? So that's fine. Okay, now we got Crushing Vines, 3 mana instant with choose one. Destroy target creature with flying or destroy target artifact. So this is a very, very kind of common card that you can see, and for 3 mana it's not worth it very much. So Crushing Vines, I'm gonna say it's not a, I mean, it is a bad card because of the cost, so something between 2 and 4. Okay, I'm gonna say maybe a 3. It does what it wants to do. I don't know, that's it. Okay, Bloodline Keeper from Innistrad, 4 mana 3/3 with flying, and you can tap it to create a 2/2 black vampire creature token with flying, or you can pay a black to transform it, and you can only activate if you control 5 or more vampires. And when you transform, whether vampire creatures you control get +2/+2. It still has flying, Lord of Lineage. and you can tap to create, so you can still tap to create a 2/2 black vampire creature token with flying. Okay, so at the turn that it enters, it doesn't affect very much, but then you can just start creating tokens that are very relevant with vampire decks. So having a vampire that creates vampires is pretty good, because I think that right now we're seeing a lot of things that just are a human that creates, I don't know, rabbits, or a rabbit that creates human tokens, and having something that creates more of its own kind, it's pretty good. And then you're only gonna pay 1 to transform. Okay, you do need to have 5 or more vampires, but you're gonna be in the deck that has the ways of doing this, and you can tap it to create the 5th vampire, and then you can transform. So I do like this creature. I like it pretty much. Bloodline Keeper? Yeah. So Bloodline Keeper, I'm gonna put it into this lot of good cards, and it's probably around 7. I'm not giving things that are very like 7.1 or 2, I don't know. I think that when you start doing these, you're just kind of trying to get your things in place, but okay, it is a good card. Is it more to the good or more to the slightly above average? Maybe I'll give it a 6.8. That might be kind of brutal. I did really like this card. I'm gonna do what I did in here, and I'm gonna start getting a little bit of a mark on the ones that really got me, and I'm also going to do something here so that I know where we started today. Although there is the number, so anyways, let's go to the next one. Molten Collapse. So a sorcery, you choose one. If you descended this turn, you may choose both instead. Okay, this is a very well-known card, right? Destroy a creature or planeswalker. If you didn't descend, you choose only one, or you destroy a non-creature, non-land permanent with mana value 1 or less. So it's like if you descended, and descend is you descend if a permanent card was put into your graveyard from anywhere. So if you sack something, you're descending. There's a little bit of a hand in the art. That's the first time that I realized that. And anyway, you can destroy something, and you might like a creature or planeswalker, and you might even get another kind of permanent that has a low mana value for just a little bit of cost, let's say. So yeah, it's pretty good. Generally, it goes into one kind of deck, of course, but this is pretty good when you make it work, because then it's a 2 for 1, and for 2 mana, that is pretty good. Of course, you have to make it work. Molten Collapse. So how will I rate it? I think it is a good card, maybe on 6.3. It is something reactive. You're generally not gonna do these on turn 2 while getting the most value out of it. If you're gonna get the most value out of it, it's gonna be turn 3 or later. At which point you might be wanting to do things that are more proactive. I don't know, so I think that this is a good... I do like the card. It is not a card where you build around, it's a card where if you are already in the kind of deck that likes this, then these will just be very, very good. But yeah, that's fine. Let's go to the next one. Sigarda's 8. You may cast aura and equipment spells as though they had flash, and whenever an equipment you control enters, you may attach it to a target creature you control. Okay. So this is pretty good to just hold up mana, use your equipments at the end of your opponent's phase. I haven't done these, right? Oh, we have done these already. Let's see what we had given it. 6.3 as Molten Collapse. I don't know if I would give it that much today, but maybe I would. I don't know, maybe I wouldn't. I think that I was feeling something like 5.8 today, but anyway, it is what it is. I'm not gonna change anything that has already done. Okay, basic lands not entering. Infinity card, so not entering as well. Okay, 1 mana 1/1 human, mild mannered librarian from Foundations, and you can pay 4 mana and this creature becomes a werewolf. You put 2/1/1 counters on it and you draw a card, activate only once. Okay, I like the artwork with like this shadow of the werewolf. That is pretty good. But about the card then, it's a 1 mana 1/1 human. In the deck of werewolves, generally you're working with the day-night mechanic, and like holding your mana to spend on these, or to hold something else like a removal, something like that, is okay. I think it's too expensive. You have paid 1 mana for something that is not a werewolf, and then you're gonna have to spend 4 more to put the counters. And then yeah, you draw, but still, I don't know. Not very powerful, but it lets you hold that mana and do it on your opponent's turn. It's an interesting card. I'm gonna... How was I copying these? Just from here? I think it's gonna be faster. Okay, so I would say slightly below average to bad. It's even kind of bad to me. Okay, we're gonna get it as slightly below average, I think. Yeah, I think that works as something like 4.1, just a little bit into that zone. And then let's go for another one. Okay, Colonian Hydra, 5 mana 0/0, Hydra Trample. When this enters, it enters with 4/1/1 counters on it. Okay, and when it attacks, you double the number of +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. Okay, so that is pretty great with this kind of Hydra deck, or with any kind of +1/+1 counters deck. It did enter in some commanders, and yeah, Colonian Hydra, so I think it's an interesting card. I'm gonna say it's either slightly above average or a good card. Like doubling the counters on every creature you control. Generally, these kind of decks also have something where you might even get more counters than those. So I'm willing to say it's even a good card, but just at that point of a good card. Like, yeah, maybe a 6. Maybe I'm being too generous. Like 5 mana 4/4. Not great. Like it's not gonna block very well probably. If that's what you need when it enters. But that's it. And then we get Rogue's Passage. Land. You tap to add 1 mana to your mana pool, or you can pay 4, tap, and target creature becomes unblockable this turn. This is pretty good. It's great with ninja synergies or things like that, where you really want to connect with something. I am going to give this. I think it deserves a decent score. It's not very. It doesn't produce colored mana, and it's not very cheap for mana tap to make something. Like you're wasting your turn, and that can be responded. I'm gonna say that is something around. I mean, it is a good card, huh? It's a very good, useful land. I think it deserves like a 6.5. Although it seems like it should be better than Bloodline Keeper at this point. I'm not gonna go back, but I'm not gonna give this more than that. So that's it. Oh, okay. So Fury, 5 mana creature, elemental incarnation. It has double strike and it is a 3/3. And when it enters, it deals 4 damage, divided as you choose among any number of target creatures and or planeswalkers. And you can evoke by exiling a red card from your hand. So the evoke is another cost that you can pay, and if you do it, you have to sack the creature. So you can evoke this, exiling another red card from your hand. So you're gonna lose that card. Fury is going to enter, and it's going to be sacrificed. But then you get the enter the battlefield trigger, so this becomes like you pay no mana and you deal 4 to creatures and or planeswalkers. So this becomes a removal at the beginning of the game, or later in the game this might even enter as like the double strike creature with this ETB. I think that we may have. I really like this artwork. I think that we may have Evoke explained in one of these cards. It's not. It's banned in Modern, it's banned in Historic, but it's legal in older formats and it's pretty good. So yeah, Fury. I do think it's pretty good card, very good card at least. I don't think it's broken, or that it gets to be, but it is very good. I'm gonna say that it deserves at least 8.5, but I think I will give it more than that. I think Although, yeah, no, it is pretty good. All this cycle is pretty good. I think that the black one, what is the name? I forgot. But the black one is better. But this is probably the second best. I don't know if there is one for each color, but if it is a cycle, probably it is. I remember Fury and the black one right now. But anyway, that is it. So Fury, pretty good. That is awesome. I don't know, but maybe. I'm gonna also mark the Hydra. I really like +1/+1 counters decks. And let's see what else. She's Exorger, 6 mana creature elemental, haste, and it has eco, sacrifice 2 lands. So for the eco, at the beginning of your upkeep, if this came under your control since the beginning of your last upkeep, so you only do it once, at the next upkeep, at the next of your upkeeps, you have to pay, so you have to sack 2 lands, or you sack this creature. So that's it. Just a 6 mana 6/4 elemental is not great, at least nowadays, and I could see something like the eco making you sack lands, and you have and that being good, like you having a way to get them back. But still, I think that if you want to do that, it's not this kind of 6 mana 6/4 haste like the best way to do it. So yeah, I'm going to say that this is not great. This is probably 2 point something. I'm gonna say 3. Okay. Gravitic Punch, 4 mana sorcery that says target creature you control deals damage equals to its power to target player. And then you have Jumpstart, so you can cast this from your graveyard by discarding a card in addition to its other costs, and then you exile. So yeah, you can it's sort of like a fling where you don't have to sack your creature. You do it once, and then you can do it twice from your graveyard. But for 4 mana, that you can start doing this. So yeah, it is a lot, and I don't know if you're probably better by going for a 4 mana aggressive creature that is near to ending the game than doing these, or you're either using these with a creature that can grow very fast. It is interesting. It is a card that can see play with a lot of kind of cards like Kiln Fiend or things like that. Did I copy it? No. Galvanic. Okay. Gravitic. I'm gonna just put that in here. And then what grade am I gonna give these? It's okay. It's slightly below average, maybe. Or maybe it kind of just falls into the bad. I think it falls into the bad a little bit. Maybe a 3.8. And I might be giving it too much. But anyway, that's fine. That's what I give it. We have Shadow Mage Infiltrator. So this is a 3 mana 1/3 fear, so it can't be blocked except by artifact or black creatures or black creatures. And when it deals combat to a player, you may draw a card. So yeah, it's a card that we have seen a bit of it. There are some commander sets that brought it as well. And anyway, the fear ability is not something very common, but it is pretty good. Like, suddenly it's almost like you have a good chance of getting this to be unblockable against some opponents. And if you connect, you draw a card. That is great, but that's the thing where 1/3, like, it's not a great body. Like, nowadays it's pretty bad actually, and yeah, it has the good upside of, like, if this hits once and there is a chance that the fear helps in that, then it already replaced itself. But then to start giving you some kind of an advantage, you need 2 turns attacking. So yeah, Shadow Mage Infiltrator has its abilities, but it's not like great card. So we're gonna just give it something maybe like slightly above average. Maybe this could be like yeah, it's maybe a 5.4, I don't know. Guild gates, okay. I'm gonna try to... I'm gonna do it like this. Guild gate. Because anytime we get a guild gate right now, we're not gonna rate it. It's already rated. Guild gate. Okay. And it's just like a dual land that understepped. And it has the gate type, which is relevant. So that is still slightly below average today. So the gate type is what makes it a little interesting. We have gates decks, and they are very, very interesting, yeah. So, but still, I don't know, like, it's still slightly below average. We have a lot of dual lands that even come in tapped. They do a lot. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's the rate I'm gonna do. I'm starting to do lands, like I didn't have a lot of lands in the last one. So let's see how it goes. Okay, now Rustvine Cultivator. It's a Phyrexian Elf Druid, 1 mana 1/2. You can tap it to put an oil counter on it, or you can tap and remove an oil counter to untap target land. Okay, so if you just think about an elf, like Llanowar elves, they're much better. They can tap for mana every turn. Where I could see Rustvine Cultivator entering would be like some kind of Lotus Field deck where untapping it gets you 3 more mana on that turn. So yeah, that is pretty good. And you don't have in that deck a lot of things on turn 1 that do it, I think. So yeah, this is an interesting one. The thing here as well is, like, you go for these on turn 1. On turn 2 you put an oil counter. On turn 3 that you can remove the oil counter to untap a land. So it's like yeah, in that kind of deck it is okayish, but even though it's really not great, I'm gonna say that it's a bad card. It's slow and needs a lot of tapping and staying alive. So I don't know. It's an interesting card, but I'm gonna say that it's a 3.3, and we're gonna keep going. Sumala Rumblers, 4 mana X4, creature with Worm, where its power is equal to the number of creatures you control. And it has Myriad, so whenever these attacks, for each opponent other than defending player, you may create a token that is tapped and attacking the other players or a planeswalker that they control. And you exile those tokens at the end of combat. So basically this is always attacking all of your opponents. 4 mana X4, where X is the number of your creatures. It means that it's at the very least a 1/4, or it can be like pretty huge, like 10/4 or more. And the thing about these is that it doesn't have trample by itself, which would be pretty good. Like, yeah, you get with a bunch of little dudes on the beginning of the game, and then you get these, and this is pretty large and has trample. That would be a little bit more threatening. And even if it was like a 4 mana 5/4, like if you got 4 other creatures on the first 3 turns, then yeah, it still doesn't look like much. But anyway, I'm going to let's rate it. Probably not high, really. And then it's probably, it is into the bad card slot, maybe, or maybe quite there, I don't know. 3.9. Okay, now the next one is pretty great art from Ice Age, and it is Norrit. I have never seen this card before. It's a creature, an imp, with that you pay 4 mana, 3 and a black, to summon imp. It is a 1/1, and you can do either one of these when you tap him. You can untap target blue creature, okay, or you can choose a target non-wall creature the active player has controlled continuously since the beginning of the turn. Okay, so if you do it on your turn, you're doing it on a creature that is not a wall that you have controlled since the beginning of the turn. That creature attacks if able. So no, you're generally doing it on your opponent's turn. You choose a non-wall from them, and that creature attacks this turn. Your imp is tapped now, and you destroy it at the beginning of the next end step if it didn't attack this turn. Okay. That creatures attack this turn if able, but you destroy it if it didn't attack this turn. So if it wasn't able to attack, for example, if that creature is tapped with a stun counter or something like that, it can't attack, it's not able to attack. You tap this guy, and then at the beginning of the end step, that creature is destroyed. Okay, so Norrit is very interesting in this sense of way where he's not, this imp is not great because you're paying 4 mana for a 1/1. Okay, maybe the stats don't even matter. But it doesn't have haste as well to kind of do it when it enters. But the idea of pairing this card with things that will tap your opponent's creatures or make them unable to attack is kind of interesting. You can have, it's not a legendary creature as well, so you can have some of these. I don't think that it works pretty easily or pretty well, but that's pretty interesting. Norwich. I wonder if the name has something to it, like no hit. I don't know. It is kind of a bad card, but I might just put it right now. I'm thinking this is a slightly below average card. I'm giving it 4.4. But it is the kind of thing I would like to try, and I know it wouldn't work very well, very easily. Like, it's just too much, and for 4 mana, generally you want a Damnation, especially seeing how old this card is. It's not gonna play in a lot of formats. So anyway, that is an interesting card. Now we have JM Dai Tome. 4 mana artifact that you can pay 4 mana, tap it to draw a card. So 7th edition, it was from how do I see? So it is very old actually. Alpha already had it. I didn't know this card, but that is pretty interesting. And there are a lot of with the editions where it came back. Okay, so about this tome, 4 mana and tap to draw a card is a lot. 4 mana to just put these on the battlefield is a lot. This is pretty not great. And even trying to, I don't know, cheat with these is not great. I mean, this card is pretty bad. So we're gonna say that this even might, it's probably even tempting to be in the garbage bin. But we're not gonna do that with this card. I mean, it represents probably a lot. Okay, so here we have the Worslayer, 5 mana artifact equipment, and then you equip for 5. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you destroy all permanents other than Worslayer. Why though? Like, it should not destroy at least the creature that it is attached to. Never equipped creatures deals combat damage to a player, destroy all permanents other than Worslayer. So if you pair these with indestructible creatures, you still need the equip to be costing less. For this to be okay-ish. But if you do it, then wow, yeah. Destroying all permanents, like all lands, you destroy all lands. Everything that is not indestructible. So You destroy lands, you destroy creatures, you destroy everything. The War Slayer stays there on the battlefield, and anything that has indestructible. So you're really using the like specific deck to do this, but that is pretty wild. So Word Slayer is gonna get into the slightly above average, although it's too expensive and too expensive to equip. Generally, in the kind of deck where you want equipments, you have ways to making them pretty cheap to equip. So the thing is that you also have to do the rest. So it should be actually at slightly below average. I'm gonna give it what I believe it's needed to be given, like less than 5. But that is pretty interesting, yeah. Okay, let me see if I didn't forget anything. I think that it's fine. Let's go. Okay, Jungle Shrine. So this land enters tapped, and it had one of any of the Naya colors, so green, red, or white. And yeah, it's been here since Shards of Alara. And so this enters tapped. It's really a triome that doesn't have this cycling. Three lands, like any land that generates 3 mana, is not that easy to find. So that is something that is interesting to note. Also, I believe the triomes have the basic land types, which adds a lot to them, but still, it's pretty neat card. I'm gonna say that it is slightly above average, or maybe into the good cards. Like, it's a land, it gives you a lot of colors that you need. Like, yeah, I'm thinking of something like 6.1, something like that. So yeah, that's it. Just 1 second. Okay, Cauldron of Souls, 5-mana artifact that you can tap, choose any number of target creatures. Each of those creatures gain persist until end of turn. When it dies, if it had no +1/+1 counters, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a +1/+1 with a -1/-1 counter on it. So yeah, it kind of saves you from wraths that destroy, right? If they are exiled, it does nothing. And it is kind of costly, like 5 mana. And then it's not costly to activate, but yeah, it's an interesting card. So hard for me to really get on a grade on these, on a rating. But the thing is, maybe in Commander it is good. I think so. Overall, the card by itself, I think it's slightly above average, or maybe slightly below. I don't know. I'm gonna just stay with the 5. Like, just give it. It's a fine card. It does what it wants. It's a little bit costly, but that's fine. Okay. And there we go. So we have a dinosaur in here that really looks like, I don't know, is Sinuous Benthisaur. So 6 mana for Dino from the Lost Caverns. And when it enters, you look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of caves you control, plus the number of cave cards in your graveyard. Put 2 of those into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Okay, so right now we have a 3 mana sorcery or instant, I don't know, that you look at the top 5 cards and you choose 2, for example, like our new divination. And this is something where you need to use caves. I don't know if there are a lot of caves that enter untapped. I didn't follow this set very much. If there are, then maybe this would be a little bit better, like 6 mana for 4 that does that kind of divination, but it would be better than what we are thinking. Still, I think it's pretty bad, really. Like, you have to, if you don't have a lot of caves that enter untapped, then you're using these lands that enter tapped and you're not getting that much of a benefit from it. Like, it's trying to do things like a gate stack would, but in a worse way, it seems. Not that I'm like attached to the gate stack or something, it's just that this doesn't seem like it got it right, like what it should do, or like maybe you should be more benefited than more, like it should be better for you than that, I think. So it's not, it's you can use it, but it's not gonna be great, so it's probably a bad card. I'm gonna say like a 2.8, something like that, I don't know. Swamp. That is a cool swamp though. Okay, we get Sky Diamond. So this is a cycle as well of artifacts. These enter tapped, and you can tap to add blue. So yeah, this is very good. It ramps very early with artifacts, so any kind of differently than a Llanowar elf that can be bolted, that can be destroyed. This is a little bit harder to be destroyed, and at the point that it could be destroyed, generally it already served its purpose a lot. So yeah, I do think it's pretty good. I would say probably a 6 or maybe a 7, because yeah, it's pretty good. A 7. I think I'm gonna stay at a 7 or like a 6.9. It does enter tapped, but generally you're using it in places where that doesn't impact so much. So yeah, this version is pretty expensive, it seems. Anyway, that is just another thing. So now we got Phthisis. It's a sorcery, 7 mana, 3 and 4 black. You destroy target creature, and its controller loses life equal to its power plus its toughness. Okay, so that is interesting. And you may just suspend 5. You can pay 2 mana rather than the full cost, and you exile it with 5 time counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, you remove a time counter. When the last is removed, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. So yeah, I do like Suspend, and the rest is interesting, but the cost to just use this, like for the full cost, is just too much. So yeah, that's my take. I do like the name, it's kind of fun. Phthisis. Anyway, it can deal a lot of damage, yeah, but it's probably a little bit on the bad side. Suspend 5 is a lot of time to wait, but it is good to at least have something to do, although if you draw it later in the game, it's like, oh my god, like I don't have 5 turns. So yeah, it's on the bad side, probably something like 3 point something, I don't know. For now I will leave it as a 3. Ambassador Laquatus. So this is a 3 mana Merfolk wizard. It is a 1/3 that you can pay 3 mana and target player mills 3 cards. So yeah, this is an interesting one. Like, as you grow your mana during the game, you can do these more and more and more with your opponent. If you would just like mill 3 cards with this, spending 6 mana total, it is a lot. The idea that you might just play these and have it destroyed before you can take any advantage is also pretty bad. So yeah, it's not a great card, but it does have the potential to do some work. I don't know, it really doesn't seem very good. I say it's in the bad side, really, like a 3.4 or something like that. Let's go to the next one, Pull Under. So 6 mana instant arcane, and target creature gets -5/-5 until end of turn. So an instant for 6 mana, you deal -5/-5. You do that. It is very expensive. It has the arcane subtype, but that was, I think, only relevant in there. I do love this set. I do love other cards from this block, but yeah, I think that this is pretty bad. Just because this is probably the set where I started learning Magic. Let's see, so I will give it like 2.5. Pretty bad, but it can destroy a creature. I don't know, maybe it's too harsh. It does something. I'll say 3.2. It does something. It destroys. It's not a garbage. Although garbage would be in here. It is bad, but we have worse. Yeah, it is better. Like, for example, I'm gonna give it like a 3.6. I don't know. It seems better than Laquatus, for example. Okay, Rest in Peace. So this is a pretty good one. Can go in sideboards, and it has its place. So it's an enchantment. This is an artwork from Wilds of Eldraine. I do like some of these artworks. I didn't remember that this was in there or that this was the artwork. But when it enters, you exile all graveyards, okay? And if a card or token would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, you exile it instead. So Players that use graveyard are not gonna have the possibility of leveraging that. So yeah, I do think that this is pretty good as sideboard value and all, and so yeah, I think it's on the good cards, like on the beginning. Like yeah, it's a good card. Yeah, it's a good card. I don't know, maybe it could be a little bit more than that. Just let me see what I gave some things today. I mean, not gonna be near there. But yeah, I think it makes sense that is at least a little bit more, right? Okay, let's go 6.4 for you. Maybe more, but I think that's fine. And then unsummon. So we could talk a lot about this card. Like unsummon is return target creature to its owner's hand. You can save your creature from some kind of removal. Especially good if your creature has flash, and then you can save it and already play it on your opponent's turn if that's the moment they are trying to destroy it. It is a tempo card, so it's like you're kind of being a little bit aggressive while trying to control the game to make the tempo be better for you and to try to generate a clock faster than your opponent. But other than that, what is so bad about this card is that if it's your opponent creature that you're unsummoning, they can just play it again. They still have that menace, they still have that card, and you lost one card. So that trade was like you lost one card, your opponent didn't. In terms of card advantage, you're losing it so that you can get more tempo, really. If you're unsummoning something that is very large, like a 4-mana creature, then yeah, that might be pretty good, because you might be also already closer to finishing the game, to getting into a place where your opponent is in a tight situation, and the mana to play that again will be very, very hungry, let's say. So yeah, Unsummon could be talked a lot. I think it's not a great card. It has its place and its purpose, but yeah, that's it. Mostly the rating I'm gonna give these is that of a slightly above average card, and that would be around 5.2 maybe. So yeah, that's fine, right? 5.2. It's not a great card. Even I think it's Fading Hope, which is like a little bit of a card that looks like it. It's a little bit different. And then let's go to the last ones. Dream Fracture. 3-mana instant. You can counter target spell. Its controller draws a card, and you draw a card. Also didn't know this card. I think that what is interesting about this card is that counter and giving your opponent another draw, it's good because it's kind of good because you get rid of their threat and they might just get a lesser threat. So it's good when you're dealing with a higher threat. I'm thinking of, there is a blue and black creature that when it enters, I think it's Ertai, the name. No, maybe not. I don't know, but when you use it, when it enters, you can either destroy a creature from your opponent or counter a spell and then they draw a card. It's like if you're in that position where countering that really solves it for now. It's a little bit tempo-y as well. What is interesting about this is that, like with Urtai, you get a body on the table, it costs more mana. With these, you and your opponent both get back one card. Get back one card from after you two already used one card each. I also can see some situations where like you use Mox Diamond. Is that it? I don't know, but it's this like a 0 mana artifact that generates mana. And then if you already have the mana that you need or that you want, you could, for example, counter just, oh, I drew one, I don't want it, I don't want my counter spell. I play that and I counter that to draw 2 cards. Would be also kind of fine, especially if you're in a position where you benefit from that. And the last is that you could be using these in a deck where you're punishing your opponent from drawing or making them unable to draw, like Narset, Parter of Veils, or if you have like Shieldred in play. So yeah, I like this card. It's pretty interesting. It can do a lot. I do want to check the other artwork for this. Okay, that is interesting. Is it great? It's still just a counter spell that will cycle itself, but cycle your opponent card as well for 3 mana and all. I would say it's slightly above average, but I did like. Let's see the next one. Okay, Jade Monolith. 4 mana artifact. You can pay 1, and the next time a source of your choice would deal damage to target creature this turn, that source deals that damage to you instead. So you can redirect the damage that a source you choose, like your opponent creature, I don't know, would deal to one of to any creature, actually, to target creature. You can redirect that to you. So yeah, I believe that there are probably some uses for that, maybe some combos and things like that. Right now I'm not thinking on anything. I mean, I'm thinking of things where you take less damage or you don't lose the game with damage. I don't know, something like that. But that's it. Other than that, I'm not thinking a lot. It is interesting, but I don't know how to rate it if I don't know if there is any combo or things like that. So maybe I'm just gonna give it like the 4. It's not in the bad, but it's not in the slightly below average. And then I'm gonna end with Moonlight Hunt. So it's a 2 mana instant. You choose a creature you don't control, and each creature you control that's a wolf or a werewolf deals damage equal to its power to that creature. So it's of course a deck that will enter in that kind of deck. And this is a bite spell, right? Like we used to call it. But the idea is that a little bit better than other bite spells. If your opponent destroys one of your wolves, like destroy your creature, one of your creatures, these ones still have the other ones to help, where when you're talking about other bite spells, generally it's one of your creatures dealing damage in one of your opponent's creatures, and they can fizzle that by destroying your creature, your only creature. So yeah, that's the good thing about it, I think. But other than that, not much. You need to have creatures on the battlefield for that to work. So I would say that sometimes, especially if you are on a werewolf deck, like, you probably have red as well, and you probably have access to better removal and maybe cheaper. So anyways, I'll say that it is entering the bad part, maybe. I don't know, it's solid. It's a removal as well. Maybe, yeah, we can give it like a 4.1. Almost on the bad side. But yeah, that is it. And then I'm gonna just take a moment, and then we're going to come back later to decide which card is going to be picked for the deck that we're gonna try and make. Not a lot of things that are in arena, so this time we might just be going for a deck tech, but we'll see what we'll choose. Okay, so we're back, and now is the time to search for which of these cards we're going to try and build a deck around it. Okay, so we have Bloodline Keeper. It is a card that let's use this artwork. It is a card that I've liked. Molten Collapse, I don't remember. Let me see. Okay. I think that between like Molten Collapse or a lot of the other things that we've done, I don't think that I just want to try and build something around it. So Kalonian Hydra I also really liked. There's Fury, which is like, I do think that Fury is on Arena right now, right? Where is Fury? Here. Let me open Arena to check that out. Arena. So Fury. Gates, yeah. I think that I wouldn't. Hardly there is any Gates deck that is different or new to whatever is out there already. Rust Vine Cultivator. Rust Vine. Okay. Okay, this guy. I also think that it might be good in some decks. Like, not good, but I could see it being played in some decks. So maybe. Norrit. Oh, Norrit I really liked, right? And Wordslayer, oh, this word. I really like that one, but I think I'm gonna cut it. I really like the idea of destroying everything and just your things. Okay, I'm not gonna still cut it. Let's keep this for now. And then Dream Fracture. Okay, so this is Norrit. I should be opening new should be just like getting doubles. Dream Fracture. Kind of slow right now. Okay, there you go. Okay, it's the counter spell that you draw an opponent's draw. I really like this card as well, but I think I want some of the other ones. There are a lot of contenders in here, really. I feel like this is a deck that might have already... There are a lot of decks like this. I do like it, it's fun, but maybe we can't build something very different. This is Vampires. This is trying to use Fury in the best way possible. And then you have Norrit and Wordslayer. Okay. I feel like these are the most unique cards. I do like the other ones, but maybe I'm going to try one of these. Okay, let's try to make a Norrit deck, and maybe where I'm thinking that he will be the best will be on pre-modern. He's not legal. Yeah, he's very old, so maybe pre-modern could be a place where you could try to make it work. Yeah, that seems like something. Let's see. So there was a site that I used to create decks. Will I remember which one it is? Let's see. Oh, okay. I think it's this one. Okay. So architect. We'll use these, and we're gonna get the pre-modern meta right now, just to understand the kind of how our brew is going to compare with some of the decks that are being made. Let's see. Okay, so maybe we just take like a burn, a stifle knot. There are happening some events. Let's see. Okay. Let's also compare it with if there was some kind of okay, we should check some decks that have black control cards. We should check some decks that also have blue. Check the blue creatures, if there's something that benefits from being untapped, right? Yeah, untap a blue creature. And yeah, that's it. We're not gonna be able to rely so much on those kind of things that we said, like stun counters or things like that, but that's fine. I think that we can do a deck. We could just do like a kitchen table brew, like something that isn't necessarily okay in a format, like just something to have fun with this card. That would be acceptable as well. Let's try first the approach of maybe building a deck that maybe can work against some decks of the format. So let's try to just find him in here. Oh, there are some decks with Norrit, commander decks, but I wanted to just create a deck. Where do I create? Okay, I will need to log in. I'm gonna just take this out of the screen for now. And I'll have to remember my login. So just 1 second. Okay. New deck. Norrit. Not gonna be commander. Do we have like pre-modern in here? We have. Okay. Well, I don't think that this will matter. Okay, that's just... Okay, let's just create a deck. And then we want Norrit. So yeah, we want to have 4 copies of Norrit, because it's going to be the creature that we're going to focus around. And then we might make an advanced search. We're gonna search things that tap, target creature on blue or black, at most these colors. And then okay, do we have that in here as well? We do. Okay, so that's very I thought that we wouldn't have so much support to these, but there we go. Okay, so what do we have in here? Just creatures that can untap artifact or creatures, and that have morph, but that's not relevant. What I like about this kind of creature for this deck is that we can untap Norrit and then tap it again, and that is pretty good. So that's ways of untapping Norwich, but we still need other ways to tap opponent creatures. That's what we're looking at. Tap, tap. This is kind of expensive. Absol Hunter would be interesting with Death Touch. You give it if you gave it Death Touch, but then that's, I mean, it's one way to get that creature into play. Maybe we are going to just stay with these, because then we can have some creatures that can do some things, and then maybe we can bring them back. That's probably gonna be the best way to get them on the battlefield, and then just tap in like a Dreadnought. If you still can't destroy it, it's fine. But yeah, that's one way. Let's keep thinking. 4 and tap to tap. This is much more expensive than this. An opponent chooses. Let me just also get this a little bit bigger for you. As it comes into play, an opponent chooses a creature type. You gain control of target creature that isn't of the chosen type, as long as it remains tapped. No, not what we're looking at. Target creature does not untap. It is another way of keeping them tapped, but I think it's more expensive than this. Balduvian Trading Post. Sack. Ashnod's Battle Gear. No. Tap or untap target creature for 1 mana. Whenever any player uses Chain Stasis to tap or untap, that creature's controller may pay 3 to use Chain Stasis to tap or untap any target creature. So not pretty great. Okay, so this one is interesting. If we are at the point where we can untap Norwich and tap it several times, this can tap 4 creatures from your opponent, and that means Norwich can destroy those 4. Or you may cycle to just destroy 1 creature. That's an interesting one. Coffin Queen, you may choose not to untap. Graveyard into play if it becomes untapped. Tap target creature without flying. Choose 3. I don't know. Destroy a tapped creature. So what it does, let me just choose target non-wall creature. Attacks if able. Destroy at the beginning of the next step, end step if it didn't attack. Before attackers are declared. So he doesn't untap unless he doesn't untap. So yeah, he doesn't tap as well. So I don't know if Deathstroke is pretty good in here. Untap attacking creature you control. No, not what we want. Tap to untap the wizards. Target creature gains flying. Tap, tap. 4 polyp counters on it. Second island to put 2 polyp counters. Tap target blue creature you control and remove a polyp. this is pretty bad. Tap target creature you control. An amount of colorless mana equal to that creature's casting cost to your mana pool. Interesting card. You may choose not to untap during your untap step. Okay. 2 mana instant, tap artifact, creature or land, draw a card at the beginning of the next turn. Okay, so that is good to kind of okay with tap, whatever we want to destroy. And then we're going to even cantrip this. This is great because not only the lands are not untapping, but the creatures are not untapping, and that means that you get one creature for these, but then your opponent also doesn't use their lands. That could be okay, I don't know. You may choose not to untap during your untap step. You may choose not to untap. Okay, tap creature without flying, an enchantment for 1 mana that you can then pay 2 to do this. I was thinking on blue because of these tap abilities, you know. Tap all lands target player controls. Tap, tap. Icy Manipulator is a little bit expensive to cast, but then we get those tap abilities. I think that the untap abilities like untapping Norit are pretty good. We could have more than one Norit at some point. So yeah, tapping more than one creature is kind of fine as well. We're just trying to find like the best ways of doing this. Let's see, we still have a lot of cards. How do I know how many cards there are? Okay, 87 cards. So Snap is kind of interesting, but not necessarily for this deck. Okay. Tap, target creature. Okay, two things I'm going to do. First, I'm going to sort them by mana value. Tap target creature without flying that is already attacking you, and that creature doesn't untap. Untap target attacking creature with shadow. Neither deals nor receive combat damage this turn, so energy tap, mind games, tap target artifact, creature or land. You may pay an additional 3 when you play this spell. If you do, put it in your hand instead of in your graveyard. So yeah, something with buyback is interesting, yeah. Tap or untap. So yeah, I think that this is pretty interesting. You tap Norit, you untap with Alfedo, you tap Norit again, you untap Alfedo with Tweedle, or you could just untap Norit with Tweedle. Yeah, it wouldn't make any difference. But yeah, it would give a lot of ways of untapping. The thing is, he doesn't tap, right? Wait, he doesn't tap. That's something that I might be missing. He just destroy if they can't attack. So yeah, what we need are ways of tapping other creatures. So yeah, this is pretty great. Did we already separate this? This is not that great. Yeah, the only thing that this does is make Norid be able to tap again, but this kind of effect already does it, so this is better than this, maybe. But yeah, this can help us do multiple things at once. Discard a card from your hand, tap or untap. Now this can give the tap that we need. It enters fast on the battlefield, it can be very annoying. Okay, and then we enter into the 2 mana things. Then yeah, maybe the death stroke could be okay, like you just destroy a creature that is tapped, but you have the ability to tap them. It does end up costing 3 mana to destroy them, so generally, so it isn't really the best idea. I think that the deck that right now we would suffer the most would be goblins. Probably there is a possibility of creating a lot of goblins. We have DOX, number of goblins. Let me see if we can. Okay, the Matron, the Lackey. Protection from blue is carry. Haste, when it enters, reveal 4 cards from the top of your library in your hand. Okay. Doesn't untap. Okay. 3 mana 1/1, deal 1 to target creature or player. Okay. Goblins cost less. 1 damage target creature or player. Create 3 1/1 red goblin creature tokens. Skirk's Prospector and Pyrokinesis. Any number of target creatures. Okay. What else do we have? Some sideboard. A land in the sideboard. I really need to study a little bit of these decks because I really don't know pre-modern. So if I just say, oh, okay, this is a done deck but it has no chance, because it's not gonna have a chance, but no chance at all, then that's pretty bad. So then I think we would look for either artifacts or creatures that make our opponent creatures stay tapped. It's always without flying. Okay, that one is pretty interesting as well. Title bar. If you don't have the mana, maybe you can still use it. Sorcery. Rhystic Deluge. Tap target creature unless its controllers pay 1. It's not great, right? Eco. Ring of Geeks is a little bit let's try a tapped creature. It is interesting with the other things that we're doing because we're getting things to untap Norwit, but then they could just be used to tap those creatures. But I don't want to just end on another kind of deck. I wanted to try and extract the most out of these. But yeah, it could be a card for this deck. But I think that's it about what we could find from those. Oracle, tap target creature. Let's just say untap. And sort by mana value again. Okay. Untap. We are gonna have a lot of things that are not necessarily in our plan. Select untapped lands or bury. I didn't know this card. This is like the Lotus Field without the... but it enters untapped. I really like this one. But anyway, I think that what we're looking is probably not gonna be on lands. Does not untap. Power 3 or greater don't untap during their controllers untap steps. Now this is going to be interesting. This is an interesting one for 1 mana, maybe. Cloud of Fairies. Unblockable. As long as it's untapped. Take target creature from any graveyard and put it directly into play. Tapped. if this is untapped. Those cards that we have, this needs to discard a card, untap. So we untap, we draw an additional card. These, we need ways to end the game as well at some point, but I think that if you can control the game, then the rest is just gonna come. But you untap these, you draw the card, and then you need a way to tap this. If you can tap these just with creatures, then that's fine, without having to discard or something. But it is something to think about, so we're having a lot of things in there. Until the creature doesn't untap. This could be in some kind of sideboard situation, you know. With power 1 or less, don't untap. The thing is that these doesn't tap them. Okay. Sorceries. This is interesting. Creatures target pretty control, don't untap. Stasis. Each player skips untap phase. Is this banned? You gotta look at that as well. It's not banned. So about stasis, you gotta have ways to untap your lands. Do the things that we've seen: untap land, just tap land. There are some things that are good with stasis as well, but we really need ways of untapping lands. Tap creature, creatures, creature, creature, creature. You need to discard a card. And you need to pay the mana as well. So yeah, it's pretty difficult to make it work. Where is stasis right now? I did open it, right? Didn't anyway, I'm gonna get it in here to be considered as well. Not to untap. Return an island. Okay, this one we have. As long as this is untapped. Players can't untap more than one land. So they still can tap one land. I don't know. Lands with an activated ability, don't untap. Tap untap the wizards. A fiddle. So they are kind of it's interesting, but I really need things that untap. Don't untap. Okay, back to basics. Would back to basics be good in this kind of it is 6 mountains. I think that there is enough things that it doesn't matter that much. You may choose not to untap. Target opponent controls, don't untap. It's a source. So yeah, I think that mana value 3 would be like where you just want to really seal the deal on, like, okay, I would have this artifact or enchantment that from there on I already have my lock. Put in the graveyard, tap or untap all creatures that share a creature type with it. Untap up to 3 lands. So frantic search, you could like draw, discard, and tap lands, still keep getting the lands that you need, and then pay in stasis. I don't know, it's still not great. Return target permanent to its owner's hand. Of course, you need that deck with more birds, and I don't think that we have anyone that entered the deck. Spell Shaper, human Spell Shaper. But yeah, I don't think we have any birds. But it's an interesting card, huh? This with stasis is interesting because you can tap the lands that are going to come into play. We really need things that untap. Okay, I would like, let's see, a little bit more cards. I'd like to look at creatures that tap without spending mana. No. No. Let's see, what else do you have? You have Norwich. Because then we can just try to look for things that we can get back from the graveyard, as we're thinking of doing with Norwich. At the end of your upkeep, use this ability only during your upkeep. Beginning of your upkeep, sack these. Tap 2 creatures, permanent, 2 owner's hand. And then, yeah, we don't have much more than that. Okay, I'm gonna give it a break and then I'm gonna come back and try to give a little bit of a look on any kind of control-ish blue-black deck. So yeah, we'll be back. Okay, so we're back, and finally I had to study the format a bit. I had to understand a lot of things, and I got to understand a lot about pre-modern, which I didn't understand a lot. For example, if you look in here, I thought that pre-modern would get everything from around alpha or you know, everything with some bannings up to the 7th edition or around these blocks. But no, it actually starts in 4th edition and it goes up to Scourge. So it is much different than what I thought, and I realized that when I was just finishing the mana base for the deck, that I just thought, okay, we need Underground Sea, like a dual land, and it was just not appearing. This is something very good when you're searching in Architect. So if you already chose the format, it's not gonna show you cards that are not legal in that format. So there you can see that Tundra is not appearing, or Underground Sea, as I was trying to search at first. So anyway, what did we have? I have 2 things to show you. The first one is some of the ideas and a lot of things that I ended up with. The first thing, I mean, Norwich is it's a not great card, and that means that the deck that I built is not necessarily fully around him, or like he's gonna be the star of the deck. Probably not, and hardly it would. So I think that's the idea to consider in here. But let me show you some things in here. I got these separated between some functions that each part would be playing. And here what we have a lot of parts that I thought, okay, these would enter the deck because the deck would probably be a little bit control-ish, so they would get into the deck no matter what. And those things are these control cards, these ramp cards, these cards that are made to tap, cards to untap, stacks like some sideboard cards as well, and other sideboard cards. And then I made these two lists, let's say, inside the list, which are stasis. So a little bit of how you could approach this deck with stasis. So it brings stasis, it brings Quirion Ranger. That is something that generally you pair with, because Quirion Ranger return a forest you control to your hand. Here it would be like the dual land blue-green, but at the start. But now that I'm thinking about it, it just doesn't work. You don't have that card. But anyway, you return a forest and you untap one of your elves. Like, let's say you can untap Birds of Paradise, and then you go for that land that you just came back to your hand, and then you have 2 mana. So generally you're gonna have 1 more mana than your opponents, and you're just gonna little by little generate a tempo in that. That's the idea. You have some other things that work pretty well, like Gush, Daze, and Land Grant. So this is an idea of, you could go Sultai and build it trying to go for that. It's pretty hard. I didn't get very far. I think that you would really have to understand, okay, how will I make it possible to really get my creatures in play. Like, probably you would be going a lot more for unearth kind of things, else you wouldn't be possibly generating a lot of mana to really just play them. So it is something that would have to be a lot well refined. And then we have the reanimator list, which could use reanimation, the control-ish part that you already have, and that reanimation target could be Norrit. Of course, Norrit wouldn't be the star of the deck. You would probably bring in something like a Chroma or Symbiotic Worm. Those are some of the best creatures that you can bring, for example. And then yeah, that's it. The rest is just reanimation, things to discard cards from your hand. And your deck can also have other things that help you in that idea. For example, Trickster Mage, you can discard a card from your hand to tap or untap something, and that is pretty good to get that reanimation target on the graveyard. Or she might also be good because you may want multiple targets in the graveyard. And that's it. The idea is you could go also for a reanimation kind of deck, but I went for a control-ish deck that has Norrit, has some other creatures, and then I'm gonna go a little bit more in depth in here. Okay, so first thing, I worked in the mana base, although Lotus Petal appears in here because of this one is divided by mana cost, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and our sideboard. But here we have 5 islands, 8 swamps. Because we didn't have our dual lands, what I went were with 4 polluted deltas. So you do have these lands and the fetch lands, and then you have the cycle, which we got reprints recently, and this is just a dual land, but you need a swamp for it to become a dual land. That's why we have more swamps in here, and also because Dark Ritual there has some interesting plays. We need that black mana kind of fast. So that's it, 21 lands. I think that you don't need so much more, especially with Dark Ritual. And then you have the rest, 3 of the quantity of cards. I had to be a little bit I had to try and still keep a little bit of everything to make it work. And then we have also Mind Games. So Mind Games is you tap an artifact, creature, or land for 1 mana. But if you have 4 mana, you can just buy back. So you use it, but then it goes back to your hand. You have Paralyze, which taps a creature, and then if your opponent wants that creature to untap, at its untap step, they will have to pay 4. You have Trickster Mage, which we already talked a bit. A Feral Alchemist, which is also something that can untap, so maybe you can tap your Norit 2 times. You also have Chainer's Edict, Counterspell, Deathstroke, which destroys target tapped creature, which is pretty good in this deck. You're tapping creatures and things a lot. You have Limdul's Vault, which is kind of, you're just gonna really arrange the top of your library the way you want. By spending a little bit of life, you really can get like your top 5 cards of your library to be what you want. And then we have Hypnotic Spectre with Dark Ritual. I really like this card, so I wanted to keep it. I think that it's also a very fun card, it's a powerful card maybe in this format. I don't know, it could be, but it's a fun one, and one that really can help you really try to control the game, try to get that control of the board, of your opponent's resources, really. And then you have Royal Assassin, Norit. We kept 3 copies of him, and Choking Tethers. So this is nice because for 2 mana you can cycle, you would draw a card, and you also tap a creature. So you can tap a creature, use Norit's ability, and that creature is destroyed by the end of the turn. So 2 mana destroy target creature, draw a card is pretty good. Of course, you gotta have Norit for that to work, but this is like the idea of the deck, really. Really try to keep whatever could draw back the cards for yourself. And yeah, let's go to the sideboard. At sideboard we have Annul, Blue Elemental Blast. So I was a little bit concerned of Goblin decks, but I really realized that they are not such of a bad matchup, and there are a lot of things that you can use to deal with them. There are 2 Cabal Therapy. Because we don't have a lot of creatures, this is nice. This can go and search your opponent's hand, discard something, discard everything that has the same name from their hand. And but to flashback you need to sack a creature, so to get more value out of it. But anyway, that's fine. We have Chill. This is also against red decks, so red spells cost 2 more to cast. Innervate, which you tap something and then you draw a card back. Mixstone, which it makes creatures with power 3 or more don't untap during their untap step, so good against some decks that just use some bigger creatures. We have Powder Keg, which is also to deal with creatures that don't have a high mana value as well, because these you won't deal very well with big creatures with these, but with little creatures it deals very well. Tormod's Crypt to mess with opponent's graveyard, and Sable's Web, which cycles itself, and then any land that has an activated ability doesn't untap. So an activated ability that isn't a mana ability, so it works well with our lands, because the ones that we have, they don't need to untap, which are our fetch lands. They are just gonna search for our other lands. And yeah, that's it. Those are the decks that I ended up. These ended up with this name in here in the URL, but in Architect it will have this name. It's public, but I will just leave the link for these pile of cards, 137 cards that could be used in this kind of strategy, and our pre-modern Norwich control deck in the description. So that's it. That was very fun, very I learned a lot, and it's pretty interesting, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you, and see you next time.